Hello and welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you're already part of the Sprinkle Squad. I'm so happy to see you again, and today we are building in San Myshuno in the 17 Culpepper house apartment. So like I mentioned in the last video, I'm going to be mixing in some smaller videos considering I've got some big builds that I need to finish. And I also really wanted to use the new sleek bathroom kit, which, yes, this whole apartment was based off of the bathroom kit. Basically, I decided what swatch I wanted on the sink for the bathroom, and that's what inspired the rest of the apartment. I feel like that kind of sounds insane, but because I really wanted to make sure I got to use all the really cool stuff we got in that kit, I wanted to make sure it all blended together really nicely. Now, I do end up, you just saw, swapping the sink to this like blue color. I started with that green swatch and I really like that one, but I don't know, I guess I basically found this blue wallpaper and decided we're gonna do blue. And what I ended up doing is actually taking those new like wall partitions and shelves we got with the kit and just stacking them to create kind of a headboard and attach nightstands with it, which I thought looked so cool. And I love those new wall partitions because they're just so nice and they easily clip items to it, so they're really fantastic for storage or just, separating off a space without having to use a full wall and having things easily clip to it, which is just, honestly, as someone who clutters a lot, it's just so nice. And I ended up using I was about to say Life and Death, but the new businesses and hobbies. Is it hobbies and businesses? I always mixed it up. But those curtains that we got, I haven't used them super often, but I thought they looked really nice in this apartment, especially since we were using the medium wall height here. And I really wanted this to be a more minimalistic look. So I do some cluttering, but I don't do a ton of it. So I try to keep things a little more simple. And I do use that plant we got with the kit, I think maybe like 3 or 4 times in this apartment, which I try to not use the same plant over and over again, but I love it so much. I love that it clips to shelves. I love that it comes down. It adds just extra color and it just looks so good, honestly. And I think I mentioned in the last video I was talking about the 2 kits, but let me know how you feel about this kit in particular. I think it's just so wonderful and we just got some really nice items, and honestly it's not surprising given these were CC creators. And I kind of combined the floating shelves with this dresser we got from Business and Hobbies, so it kind of made this larger wardrobe kind of thing just for a little more storage, and then just putting a little chair over in the corner in case your sim wants to sit down to get ready, that kind of thing. And I did use that basket in here and I wanted to use it in the bathroom. I actually end up not using it in the bathroom, but I love that basket so much. I love using them. I guess maybe because I have some in my own house. In my living room, I have 2 baskets, one of which is for blankets for guests and one of them is for like blankets that we use all of the time, which is honestly, like, I don't know if you need that many blanket baskets, but I have them anyways and I really love them. And of course, since I redid my living room more recently, I had to get different baskets since they didn't match anymore. But here in the living room, I tried to make a large kind of, not necessarily built-in looking thing, but I kind of wanted it to really look cohesive. So I ended up using the fireplace from Businesses and Hobbies, which I think worked out really nicely in here, and combining that with the Desert Luxe pieces here. We've got like the coffee table. I raised it up inside of those. I guess they're kind of end table-y. They're just huge. And I end up actually also putting a potted plant kind of intersecting with that round piece just to kind of create a kind of custom look. And then I did use the wall partition we got with the kit and raised it up along with the half wall shelf thing we got to create a separator for the room without actually using a wall, because I feel like it's nice in terms of visually it feels more open but also having some separation there, if that makes sense. And of course, using the refined living room pictures here, I mean, I had to, right? Like, that was definitely coming. And I originally thought I wanted to use the Casanova kit couch here, but I ended up actually swapping it out for, I think it's the Kitsch kit. I forgot. I feel like there's more to the name than that, but I ended up swapping it out for its matching pieces. I felt like maybe this was too big of a sofa, so instead I went to like a love seat because I felt like it made a little more sense in this space. And then using this gorgeous rug, it kind of pulls in some of that blue without being overwhelming. And I really wanted to have like storage under those pictures, but I felt like a lot of the things were just a little big, so I ended up using the Kitsch kit again and putting those separate pieces that look like little bookcases kind of storage over there, and I think that worked out really nicely, just giving a little extra space there for your sim without being overly large. And I tried to use the chairs that we got with Desert Lux, but I don't know, they felt really big. I think I tried to use them 2 or 3 times in this space, and it just didn't feel like it matched. It just felt like it was a little bit too big, which is funny because like we have this giant, I was gonna say just giant living room chair instead. I don't know. I think the size was a little bit interesting. And of course, just adding a little bit of clutter here on these pieces just so it looks a little more lived in. And I figured maybe this sim has some nice like sculpture pieces as well. And I end up using kind of paneling like everywhere basically in this apartment. I felt like it was a really nice neutral backdrop, especially since I didn't want to use an overwhelming amount of blue in this space. But I also figured adding just like a little accent wall just added enough pizzazz that it looked, you know, more cohesive here. And I love that plant that we got with the kit so much. I love that it looks different than we have like other things in the game, but it also isn't huge. Do you know what I mean? I feel like they could have made that item too big, but it's kind of the perfect size to me. And I didn't try sizing it down. I feel like I should. And I actually ended up using this round table in here, which feels like a lot of space for a 1-bedroom apartment, but I figured I also have a half bath in here, of course, to use as many items as I can from the new kit. So maybe this sim does a lot of entertaining, so they have a lot of dining space for people that come over, things like that. And I figured, you know, you have 1 or 2 sims here, and I end up combining that rug there. I just sized it up and combined it twice to make a bigger, more organic rug for this space. And I end up using those are the Love Struck pendants, I believe, and putting those in here. And I thought that looked really nice, kind of simple. And I'm not going to lie, I've been looking at pendants like that for my kitchen. I actually really love those lights, and I'm honestly thinking about getting some, but we'll see, because lights are also really expensive, so maybe one day I'll end up doing that. But I have been looking into it because I do think they look just so nice and simple, but adding like a little bit of color with the different metals that we have in here. And then I wanted to use this partition that we got with the refined living room kit, but I end up swapping it out for the wall partition that we got with businesses and hobbies. And you'll see kind of why here when I get to the kitchen. It just made a little more sense. And I also, the way I wrapped around the kitchen, of course, it had that space where it was sticking out too much, where the pieces didn't make a whole lot of sense, so you'd have to use a half wall. And so anyways, using that, I feel like made it look a little bit better, so we end up swapping it out. And I do have a dedicated office space along with an easel over here because I figured your sim should have a space to work. I don't know what this sim does, but I tried to give a few things for them to be able to do. Of course, this is already on the Sims 4 gallery if you'd like to download it under my ID, Spice and Sprinkles, all one word, all lowercase, and down in the description if you want to see it written out. And this has been play tested, so your sim shouldn't have any issues getting to anything, so fingers crossed when you download it, you don't have that issue. And every now and again, I like to mention when I upload apartments, what I end up doing is deleting walls that separate the rooms so the game sees it as one big room and it is uploaded as a room, since you can't upload apartments as lots unless you take it and place it on the lot, that kind of thing. So if you're trying to find it on the gallery, you might want to sort by rooms, that kind of thing, and just place the walls back when you put it on the lot. And just adding a little bit of clutter over here as well, using those half walls again because they're just so lovely. And I thought it looked really cool to take that set of 4 pictures we got from cats and dogs and kind of putting them at an angle like that. I thought actually looked really neat. I always kind of want to use those, but I tend to not end up using them just because they don't quite match. But I thought with the blue it looked really nice. And I do end up keeping their refined living room kit sideboard there in the front kind of as the entranceway table, and I kind of jump around a little bit trying to finish up this apartment in terms of going back and forth between the office, the entrance space, and the kitchen. And I think the kitchen turned out super nicely. I ended up using the Dream Home Decorator cabinets. I originally thought I wanted to use the Home Chef Hustle. I felt like if it had the right swatch would have been really nice. And I don't know if you can see what I'm talking about there, where the counters just end up being a little uneven because they're not up against a wall. So that's what I was trying to figure out how to do and make it look nice in this space and make it make sense. So I was trying to keep that partition, but I end up just getting rid of it. And I will say that I do not put a trash can in here, but I do realize that after I'm done with the speed build. So what is on the gallery does have a trash can, which it was funny when I was building it. I was like, don't forget the trash can. I literally told myself that, and then I forgot it anyways. But don't worry, I end up putting one in there, so you shouldn't have any kind of issues with that. And I end up doing a separate stovetop and oven. I don't do that super often, but I felt like it made a whole lot of sense in this space. And I also included a dishwasher, so this is a pretty awesome kitchen in terms of The Sims, because I honestly almost never put in dishwashers, but I don't know, it just felt right for this apartment. And honestly, I forget a lot of times, and I'm pretty sure the game actually originally launched without dishwashers, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't play at the time, but I think that's kind of wild that there were no dishwashers to begin with. I don't think there were pools either. Let me know if you actually played the game when it originally launched, because I am curious. I'm pretty sure that's the case. And just adding a little bit of clutter in here, and you can see this is when I kind of swap out that partition, and I think it looks a little bit better and kind of covers up that unevenness in the counter, so hopefully you don't really notice it, but I think it makes it a little more open and just makes a little more sense in here. And I do end up just kind of putting a little lamp over in the corner as well to add a little more light. And I feel like I've seen this light a lot, especially like on social media. At least like I feel like you get these influencers that are like, oh, my favorite Amazon stuff. I don't know if anybody else gets that kind of stuff, but it's always this little light. And so I don't know, I thought I'd use it over in the corner. And I did use the soap tray thing we got from the bathroom kit recently, because I thought it'd be really nice. Like, they have their hand soaps and everything there, and like with a sponge. I don't know, I feel like that might be my new kitchen item because I think it makes a whole lot of sense there. And then I do end up adding like another little plant over in the corner because I just can't help it. And then I actually end up putting, I think it's the Refined Living Room kit rug out here. Originally I was going to use this Comfy Gamer kit, but I'm pretty sure I used that in the bedroom, so I was trying to swap it up and use something a little different. And I wanted to have a chair in the entranceway. I'm thinking if they put their shoes on, or you know, you're about to walk out the door kind of thing. Again, it's a Sims, they don't do that, but I like to think that they do. Like, it would be kind of realistic, something you would have in an actual home. But I end up swapping it for the square cushion, which you'll see a little bit later, just because I felt like it fit a little bit better in that space versus having the round one. And then I added a couple pillows on it as well. And you can see I used that plant again because I couldn't help it, and it's so cute. I mean, it looks so good on that sideboard cabinet there, just draping over. I mean, it's lovely. And I still think it's funny that I love putting so many plants in my builds, because I do not have plants in my house at all, but I feel like that would be really pretty to have. I wish I had a really nice artificial plant maybe that looked like that I could put somewhere, but I feel like it's hard to find artificial plants that actually look nice and also that aren't super expensive. But anyways, that's something I've also been working on, is looking into some artificial flowers, like even for my yard, because I know I've talked about it before. I'm not a huge plant person. I don't know. I end up not taking care of them well or something, and then they are no longer with us. But here in the main bathroom, I really tried to use all of the pieces in here. So the shower, the bathtub, doing a double sink and everything, really trying to fit everything. And I actually end up having to swap the bathtub around, which I figured I might need to, just to make sure your sim can get to it. So your sim can get to it. It's just in the final version it is swapped around, but it does work really nicely for your sim. They didn't have any issues. And just adding in clutter kind of all over the place, and of course using that wall partition there behind the bathtub, I figured it'd be really nice to put all of, you know, your whatever things you have for taking a bath. Like I have a little set that has bubble bath and like bath salts and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I imagine, just kind of putting all of that kind of stuff up there. And originally I wanted to put the bathrobes on that glass wall there, but it wasn't exactly on a wall, and so anyways I had a hard time doing that, so instead I moved it and didn't actually put it there. But then I ended up swapping that hamper out for, or basket, I don't know what it's technically called in the game, for that plant because it just looks so nice in here and added a little more color and height over in that corner instead of the basket. I feel like I could also combine that basket with other plants and it would look really nice. And then just adding a nice little place for your sim to maybe have a book, maybe they read while they're in the bath, that kind of thing. And I don't know, I just like thinking about all the things your sim could do, even though they don't necessarily do that in the game. But if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And I hope you have a really sweet day. Bye, everybody.